start this regular voting meeting of the Board of Education. I have been informed by the administration and executives and folks that we do not need to go into exec session for anything on their minds. Everything that we have tonight is for public consumption, which is great. You know, I believe Sean is going to be absent tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So I would offer that typically we have public comment around that 7 o'clock hour time frame, and just and I would ask that we go ahead and get some work done before then, and then do public comment. So I'm going to offer that you know, for the agenda, you know, 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3, public comments, student reps, and board responses. Can we shuffle that and bring that in approximately around 7? But I would ask that we go ahead and go for our modifications of the agenda. That's where I am right now. We'll go ahead and do the consent agenda, and then 10.4 would be a resolution regarding in front of us that we discussed at our last exec session, and then the Ithaca Lansing hockey merger 10.5. We could do 10.4, 10.5 in addition to the consent agenda, and then hopefully we'll be closer to that normal time slot for anyone that wants to speak with us. And then we can get really into the meat of the meeting with blended learning and the blended learning development team, blended learning at Ithaca, and then the capital projects update. If that sounds okay with everyone, kind of without objection. I was just, I'm not hearing or seeing. I don't think we need to take a vote on that. This consensus is saying we're going to go ahead with that. So, so let's hop to the consent agenda and personnel report, and then anything else, Chris, that we needed to take a look at.
I'd like to move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second by Pat. Any questions? Anything? Are we good? Not a lot there, I guess, right? Okay, let's go ahead with the vote on the consent, and Tricia, feel free to call the roll.
Rob Ainsley,
Yes.
Erin Coyle, Eldred Harris,
Yes.
Nicola Fave,
Yes.
Moira Lang, Chris Malcolm,
Yes.
Ann Reichlin,
Yes.
Pat Waslaw.
Yes. Oh,
Very good.
on. And did we get Eldred?
I heard a yes from Eldred, correct?
Did get Eldred. Did we get Aaron?
I just signed in. I'm here.
It is correct that I said yes.
Okay.
Got it.
So consent agenda, well, I guess Aaron can be brought up to speed. We just passed the consent agenda, limited consent agenda. We are shuffling the agenda, the total agenda a bit. We are going to go to items 10.4 and the 10.5 of the school district business. We are putting off public comment and the student reps because we're not going into exec session this evening. So, and we can touch on any other business before 7 o'clock that we can, but we'll try to be close to our normal schedule for public interactions. So 10.4, resolution to ratify an agreement between the district and the parents of a student with a disability. And that is an item that we discussed at our last exec session. And there is a resolution within our secure agenda. So certainly we need a motion to approve the resolution as presented in the in our agenda. And a second, we can certainly, there's not a lot we can talk about in public regarding that.
I move to approve the resolution to ratify an agreement between the district and the parents of a student with a disability.
Second.
Second.
Second by Moira. Any overall questions? Obviously, we won't get into details. Are we good at this point? We did discuss this with everyone in exec session at our last public board meeting. If not, then I think we can go ahead and Tricia, call the roll.
Rob Ainsley,
Yes.
Erin Croyle,
Abstain?
Eldred Harris,
Yes.
Nicole LaFave,
Yes.
Moira Lang,
Yes.
Chris Malcolm,
Yes.
Ann Reichlin,
Yes.
Pat Wasilou.
Yes.
Very good. Thanks, everyone. We're moving far too quickly through everything, but we'll get there. And then item 10.5, the Ithaca Lansing hockey merger. A request that has been brought to us before in previous years, but this may take a little discussion. So does the administration wish to speak to this too a bit? Is there?
We have Ms. Little on the line someplace. Ms. Little, you on? You can unmute. Yeah, maybe she was planning to come on a little late. I'm looking around. Lily, do you see her on right now? I don't see her.
I don't at the moment,
But
but I can give a
do
little
it,
bit of background if that's helpful.
Go for it. You got it.
So Samantha, good evening, everyone. Good to see you all tonight. Samantha Little, our incredible athletics director, has worked for a number of years and put forward this merger, actually typically several months back. And this merger connects us with another school district, Lansing, and is in relationship to the girls hockey team. Of course, everything in relationship to athletics is, we're staying very, very close to the statewide organizations, and Samantha has been attending meetings and following up with folks to both make sure that we're aligned with and complying with all of the safety regulations that are put forward, and also understanding just where athletics may be heading statewide. So we wanted to make sure this merger was on the agenda if in fact winter sports are permitted to take place.
Questions from the group? We have approved this in the past due to the fact that there have been a few Lansing students that did play on our women's hockey team, and it helped with numbers on the team. That really wasn't the issue, playing time, et cetera. Obviously, the issue now is with the status of high school sports in general, but that's a different topic for a different time. And whether, headlines recently in our news clips talking about some winter sports perhaps may be approved and some may not right now. They could be delayed. So it's really an open question. Certainly, we're hoping that we can get high school sports, JV, modified, et cetera, an opportunity to compete, you know, in the spring, certainly. It'd be great if we get some short seasons in. So we'll have to see how this all works out. But certainly I'm not opposed to a merger with Lansing, just in case. My opinion. And if there's no real questions or issues, we'll just go ahead, and if we could have a motion and a second, and then we can continue to discuss.
I move the approval of a merger with Lansing High School for women's hockey, girls hockey for the coming school year.
Second.
Second by Chris. You know, any questions at this time? Comments? If not, let's go ahead and vote. We have an opportunity to accept or reject. Tricia, please go ahead.
Rob Ainsley,
Yes.
Erin Croyle,
Yes.
Eldred Harris,
Yes.
Nicole Lefebvre,
Yes.
Lang,
Yes.
Chris Malcolm,
Yes.
Ann Reichlin,
Yes.
Pat Wazaloo.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Well, we're just whipping right through the agenda. You know, it is about 6:15. Enter ideas, whether we want to continue to wait on public comment period. We have folks lined up for Ithaca High, well, Dr. Brown and others. We can delay a bit more. Other discussion items, I wouldn't mind if I was waiting till the end, frankly, to ask Ann to just give everybody a quick update on her efforts at the NYSBA conference. Ann, I'll give you opportunity. You know,
Okay.
be a good opportunity now, just give everybody an update, and then we can perhaps roll into other things.
Okay, that sounds great. I did attend the business meeting and also the rest of the meeting and some of the sessions, which Pat also attended those, so she can fill you on that as well. But the business meeting was kind of interesting. Usually it takes place in a large space with about, a little bit more than 200 or so districts, which are required for quorum. This took place on Zoom, which was kind of an interesting experience, a little bit more awkward. And as a result, it went on for a longer period of time and eventually lost the quorum. But the issues, they got through all of the resolutions that the resolutions committee had approved of. So the ones they didn't get to were ones that the resolutions committee had actually turned down. But we had our own resolution on there and it did pass. It passed by a wide margin, which was nice. A couple of people had some questions, which I was able to answer. And basically, just to refresh you on it, it is, and we're just discussing it in our legislative advocacy, but this resolution was encouraging NYSBA to work and advocate for us to help with the immunization registry so that we could have a system that would work much more efficiently than the one that currently works and causes just endless amounts of busy work that could be done a lot better. So we've been doing a lot of work on this issue generally, but it would be a lot stronger to have by having NYSBA behind us. There's more chance that it will actually get done. So Barbara Lifton's office is working on a bill that they've been working on that would address it. And so that's one step. And then we're gonna find out what other school districts are actually, this might be an issue that they're interested in. It's not an issue necessarily that people are aware of unless you bring it to their attention, but we believe that it's one that really impacts a lot of school districts and would help across the board. So that's what our committee's one of the focuses of our committee. And of course, since the other issues, and I think you might have, I sent it around, you should have seen it. There were numerous other issues that were resolved. One of them, of course, had to do with the budget. I thought that one stood out as important. In particular, we're advocating that Albany should not cut funds for school districts partway through the school year. So I have a feeling that one is going to be one that will be of a special importance. But I do encourage you to read the booklet because it goes through the different resolutions. And just to be clear, just because there's a resolution doesn't mean there's a bill. It just means that the efforts of our advocacy organization, they can put some of their resources into working on those issues. So it's a first step along a journey. So that's any other, that's what I have to say.
Sure, thank you. And Pat, do you want to weigh in regarding anything regarding conference that you and Ann both attended virtually?
Well, you kind of caught me off guard because all my voluminous notes that I took are downstairs in another room, and I'm not going to run and get them. But I will mention of note that I attended and I'm sure Ann did too, the session that Dr. Brown conducted with another colleague, with a board member from another district and 3 students of color, basically giving it over to the students and finding, what their experiences have been, what they want and need from a school district, and what they really want are teachers and a curriculum that reflect their heritage and their experience, which is something that we've been working towards ever since Dr. Brown got here. Another really noteworthy session that I attended the day before was another panel discussion on serving the needs of the LGBTQ student population. And I will say right off the bat, it wasn't nearly as well run as Dr. Brown's because the students were not given the forefront and they were not, I think, given the opportunity to fully express their voice. But what they did express was something very similar, that they would like to see their identities and their experiences also reflected within the curriculum, within the faculty, although that's kind of private, but a feeling that they are normal and belong. And I found that those 2 sessions that I attended were probably the most powerful. I was attending pretty much, a session pretty much every time slot for the 2.5 days, except when I had to be at work. There was a lot going on that is positive. I tried to go for the curricular, the content driven. A lot of other districts are doing work that's similar to ours. The importance is acknowledged. It's an extremely difficult time. But I don't want to go on in further detail without my notes. But some very good work, and I was glad that I attended.
And I just want to say one more thing about the conference is it was a remote conference, which was, I think, the first time they've ever done it as a remote conference. And there were some things that were really nice, I thought, about the remote conference. One is you could kind of, they did it over a course of mornings. You didn't have to travel anywhere. You could, they've recorded these so you can come back and listen to them at another time. But there was a lot of flexibility that I thought was really great. And also, I really did think Dr. Brown's, that was my favorite one. I have to say the thing that I really missed about the remote conference is that you really didn't meet, there was no interaction with any other school district. So I think that's what I missed in terms of talk, just the more casual conversations that you have when you get together with people all doing similar, engaged in kind of similar work. And so it was kind of an interesting experience, I thought, to do it remotely. But anyway, I think it'd be nice in some ways if they do it like in a hybrid version in the future, so they actually can provide some of that to people who can't travel to the conferences.
Well, I'll just add that as someone who actually has been attending other remote conferences throughout the last several months, I will say, first of all, that attending remotely in these extremely challenging economic times, as well as health challenging times, was an extremely prudent use of district's fiscal resources. It was nothing but a registration fee, and we do actually have all of the access to all of the sessions, not only the ones we attended, but others. Not that I have really time to do that. If you're there to absorb information, it's an efficient way. If you're there to make social connections and exchange ideas, it's a limited medium, and it mirrors exactly what we're seeing with learning in our own school districts, learning versus social interaction. There are things you can learn, but then there are other holistic aspects of the educational experience that cannot be easily conveyed through remotely. But I would say it was worth my time. It was worth the effort. And
yeah, under the circumstances, I think it was as good as it could have been. And I think that as I say, I think it'd be nice. I like the fact that it gives an option in the future, because it's expensive to go to these conferences. And I imagine there are times where you might want to go for just a day or something. So it gives that option down the line. So, yeah.
No, it's great. Thank you both. I thought it was an opportunity. Wanted to get to it at the end of the meeting, and I'm glad we were able to do that now. Dr. Brown did send around an email with some information regarding the conference. So I thought it was very timely. And of course, and your advocacy meeting earlier today was important as well to get us caught up. So I did see we were able to tune into the session with the outstanding Ithaca High students, and I will let Dr. Brown speak to that during his, I'm sure he will, because we want to make sure that we acknowledge the great job those students did, outshining Dr. Brown by many yards and by a long distance, but really just great students, great people. So I'll let Dr. Brown speak to that. We want to acknowledge them again. So we're at this point, we really should get to public comment period and student reps and any board responses. Are we okay going ahead and doing that now? I'm looking at board members. Do we want to go on to Moira? Are we good? Good to go? All right. I need looking. Okay, I got a couple of thumbs up. So now we do have some folks with us. Let's go ahead and do public comment period and get our student reps. We love to hear from them. Student voices, as we were all just talking about, is critically important. So we want to hear from everyone. And so let's, Tricia, Emily, if we could see if there's anyone out there who wishes to comment to the board tonight, and then we'll get on to bringing in Ithaca High School and the rest of the agenda.
Okay. Hi, Rob. I am looking in the chat as well as the raised hand feature. And I don't see anything in the chat as of yet. Still looking. Oh, Yale Levitt would like to speak.
So I'm just wondering, because the public comment usually starts at 7 and you're starting at half an hour early. So if people do have something to say, I'm wondering about just the process. I don't know that they would. I mean, I've been in touch with people in the district this week, and I wasn't shy about it. So, and it was around, around the math curriculum and math staffing and on-site and off-site. And I would want to say first that I thought people were super communicative and were listening to what we had to say, the parent, and I really appreciate that. It was Lily Talcott, and it was Lauren Wright, and I think they actually at least listened deeply to some of our concerns around equity in math. I think I just came into the middle of a conversation. So what I've been thinking about is how, for the people who don't know, there was some conversation about, removing the current math teacher and putting her in digital literacy, and the parents and the kids who think that the current math teacher is doing an amazing job. And I'll just put it out there that Miss Wilcox, who's been also my high school teacher, is a phenomenal teacher. We wanted her to stay where she was. And in my mind, how do we actually replicate her success? What I find she does most successfully, and not only for my kid who will probably do fine anywhere she is because of our kind of socioeconomic position, what she does amazingly well is that she makes math accessible. And she makes kids who are not confident in math really excited about it. And I'm trying to think that this whole week in this conversation, how do we replicate Ms. Wilcox's methods to do this with all kids in the district? How do we teach teachers how to do that? And, I have kids and 2 kids in the district. I don't think we uniformly do this in the district. And so there are deep questions of how do we help teachers who do this well thrive, and how do we kind of use their knowledge and their methods to teach others in the district. And I'm happy to have more conversations, and Lily and Dr. Brown and many others have heard me this week talk about this a lot. And some of you may know that this is that I am very much invested in equity in STEM and higher education. So to me, this is a case of how do we strengthen the pipeline so that when we get to where I am, we actually have the pipeline.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And just to reiterate, we did not have an exec session tonight, which is rare. From time to time, we don't do that. We've been, frankly, trying to do other items on the agenda to get to 7 o'clock, and we'll continue to do that. And we'll do a check back in at around 7 or so, see if there's any other public comments, anyone else that wishes to speak. And obviously, we can take more folks right now. Anyone who wishes to speak, we'll have the students come on, and we will continue to listen. Go ahead.
Yes. Up next, we have Steve Manley. Steve, are you there?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, Steve, we got you. Go ahead.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for the time tonight. I tonight am speaking on the behalf of the Ithaca Public Education Initiative, or IPEI. I wanted to share two exciting things that IPEI has been doing in the last few weeks. The Ithaca Public Education Initiative raises funds within the community to make grants available to Ithaca City schools, our teachers, our staff, our students. And in the last few weeks, my grants committee has met. I'll be sharing with you in a week or so a full list of all of the grants that we have funded in this fall. But I wanted to share tonight that we have recently funded two significant grants titled our Connecting Classroom Grant. One went to Heather Williams and a team of teachers at DeWitt Middle School, totaling a little over $8,000 to create a program, in fact, to purchase a trailer, a physical trailer, and introduce our middle school students to the work of the trades, electrical work, plumbing work, and other areas of interest and learning for our students as we engage them in all of the ways that they can learn and practice skills and engage with the community. This will start this year at DeWitt and expand, we hope, quickly into Boynton and LACS in the coming months. We also approved a grant of $10,000 to Ithaca High School's 10th grade English department, the literature department at Ithaca High School, led by Mike Reith, creating a literature unit wherein at the end of some creation work and some development of curriculum and program, all of the students in Ithaca High School's 10th grade will be engaging in the same work around the same texts, probably two, definitely one, by authors from a BIPOC background. So a Black, Indigenous, people of color, persons of color background, to continue the engagement in the work that Dr. Lavelle has asked of us as an organization supporting our teachers, has challenged our community to engage with, to identify areas where we all need to grow in our understanding of all of the cultures that make up our community. So we are incredibly excited to see the programs that develop from the gifts made by our generous community to IPEI that we can make available to our teachers and staff currently at DeWitt and IHS, but always around the whole school year to the whole school district.
Thank you, Steve. That's outstanding. Yet again, tremendous opportunities that IPEI brings to the ICSD. Tricia, more folks?
Currently in the chat, we have no one in the chat as of yet, but feel free to use the raised hand feature.
And I will say that we will, if no one else right now, we didn't have that many comments last meeting, but we're always glad to have folks join us. We will, killing a little bit of time, but if no one else has anything to say right now, we'll go ahead and have our student reps speak to the board, speak to the community. And then we'll ask again if there's any other public comments after their conversation with us, and then board responses, and then we'll ask again if there's any public comment. So board reps from Ithaca High and LACS. I'm not sure whether we have LACS yet, but certainly Ithaca High, please go right ahead.
Okay, hello. Over the past, since the last voting meeting, we have come up with multiple surveys that we have sent out over the last day or two to the student body of IHS, mainly concerning COVID safety at school for in-person students and the quality of learning both online and in person. So far we've gotten over the past 24 hours about 70 responses overall for the surveys we sent by email, and many more responses to some, I guess, simpler questions on our Instagram account. So overall, some positives that we've received are that students online are rather happy with their choice to remain online, both because they feel safer from COVID. Some people are much happier working in their home environment, and it's yeah. And on the other hand, many people feel that the whole day looking at the screen is just very, very exhausting and tiring. That reduced discussion time is negatively affecting their in-class learning, because in the online model, it's kind of hard to have like real discussions, especially when half of the class is in person. And a lot of students also said that their Chromebooks make it very hard for them to handle online learning, because when they're on a Google Meet, it's very hard to do anything else. So if you're on a Google Meet and you pull up a Google Doc to like do classwork, then it like goes really, really slow if it doesn't crash. So that's a big negative that people are struggling with. Grace or Alex?
Yeah, so can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so a general consensus in the survey was that, as Adam said, they had a lot of issues with the Chromebooks. They said that the Chromebooks were too slow, especially like when opening multiple tabs, for example, like Google Meet and Canvas, which is necessary for their learning at home. The Google Meets, according to the students' responses, were very laggy, and then the video and audio quality were not very good, which negatively affected their learning. Like, we understand that Chromebooks, we're very thankful that we have Chromebooks to be able to learn online, but the Chromebooks aren't as great, so they still are not able to learn as effectively. Yeah, and also the Chromebooks in general are too slow, even without the Google Meets, to do their schoolwork. So they also can't do their homework and all that on time because everything's online. We thought that the Chromebooks would be a thing that the administration can help with. So for example, like planning to upgrade them, or yeah, I don't know, anything the administration can do to help with Chromebooks.
So since we wanted to stick with the idea of doing surveys, so we were planning to also give a survey to teachers, because personally, we think that student accountability is a big part of the picture. There's always things that admin and teachers can do, but students also have to play a big part in their own learning. So we wanted to ask teachers what they felt like maybe students could do better. Things like, off the top of my head, I feel like they'll talk about maybe turning on their cameras more, or maybe like some kind of questions that teachers might have for the admin. So if there's like anything you guys might want to add to that, please just let us know and we'll try to fit that in.
Some other issues of concern that have come up as a group are mental health. I think a lot of students and peers trying to deal with going in between classes and the stress of doing all of this work and relying on yourself to educate yourself, especially if you're in doing distance learning. I think And we think that mental health has become a really big issue with our school. And I think that that's something that's really important to be aware of, especially during COVID. And yeah, if anyone has anything to add, feel free to do so.
Anything else from Ithaca High? We're going to do board responses right now. So open it up to the board. And Eldred, feel free.
I want to thank everyone for speaking, Steve and Yao, and students. This information is so critical. And I mean, it's not just responses. I actually have a couple questions to follow up with. And the hearing about the screen time being exhausting, Adam, I see that. I think, adults are seeing that too. This is not a normal way to live. And the issues with the Chromebooks. I mean, Ann and I were just in a meeting earlier today and we were having issues. I also noticed with Chromebooks that the screens are so small that even if you want to flip back and forth, it's so difficult. Those screens are tiny and the keyboards are tiny. In fact, I've had to adapt my own child's stuff here. So I feel you there. And I hope that we can talk about how we can alleviate that as this year goes on. Alexander, when you talk about asking teachers how they feel and what sort of questions they might have for admin, I mean, you're asking that here, but have you reached out to teachers to get that information?
We haven't yet reached out, so we're making a survey. So we've talked to like a couple of the department chairs for some of the departments, and they think it'd be a good idea to maybe get some of the teacher input, because I know teachers are struggling with a lot of things as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke with the head of the social studies department, and he was very enthusiastic about the idea of contributing to the whole thing, he was very receptive to the idea of us sending out a survey to teachers, both for like information they want students to have in how we can help teachers and everyone, as well as like things like how we feel we learn best in online classes, et cetera. And also we think that it's very important for students and teachers to kind of be on the same page when trying to figure out this whole crazy thing with online school that everyone has to learn and try to perfect. And so we thought that getting teacher input on what they feel they need, both from students and in general to improve the classroom, would definitely be beneficial. And then both they could, through their own channels, bring those up with the administration, as well as we could, and compare their needs to the students' needs and kind of bring them forward here as well.
Well, I would love also, as you can continue to do this, I would love to hear suggestions, because you all are in it, right? Like you're in it and you might have ideas to throw out there. And I don't want to take up too much time, but I also, Emma, thank you for bringing up mental health, because that's huge. And I think we all need to remember how hard this all is. It's taking a toll on everyone, and it should be a huge focus. So thank you, all of you.
Yeah, as for the suggestions, our plan is to get as many suggestions for things to change or add from both students and teachers, so that we can bring those to you.
Hi folks, this is Chris. Thank you for everything you shared, and thank you for also Erin sharing the need for suggestions, because we're trying to merge our current technology during a pandemic situation and navigating that on the drop of a dime. But I really want to speak to what Em shared as far as the mental health situation and the fact that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we're in this, we're going to be in this for the long haul. And I guess my goal is to start conversation about getting the resources to the folks who need it so that they can navigate this in a healthy way. Is there anything out there that helps the students share and have resources to help them right now? Are you hearing things from them saying, I'm talking to this person or I'm getting this resource because, we know we're going to be in this for another year?
So many of the response, oh, sorry. Can I speak or were you? Okay.
No, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. A lot of the responses, they didn't really have any suggestions of how they could improve the mental health because this is what they're going through right now. So a lot of the responses said that they're having a lack of motivation, especially because it's online, and that especially because there's a less of an interaction between their classmates and the teachers. And then one thing I think can help is enforcing a camera on rule, which I think can help with the interacting part. But the biggest problem is that they don't have as much motivation and interaction between their teachers.
So Grace, just what I hear you saying is there possible, the fact that it's not in person affects the accountability aspect of it?
Yeah, I guess, because on the positive side, they said that when they emailed their teachers, they did have a quick response. So they were able to interact with their teachers in that way. But I think it's just the fact that everything's virtual, so it doesn't feel real per se, as if you go to physical school.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you.
I can read off some of the responses for suggestions on how to improve online learning. I guess this kind of pertains to mental health. One response that we got was that people are kind of struggling with very erratic testing schedules among all their classes, and that because of the way online school is organized, I guess, having like days where they have like multiple tests or big assignments can be really, really hard, especially with online school. So one suggestion was creating like synchronized testing schedules between subjects. So say like math tests, if they were to happen, they would be Mondays, social studies, Tuesdays, stuff like that. So I'm not sure how feasible that really is at the high school level. And that would probably be something that would have to like kind of be decided by the teachers. But I think that would definitely help. Another suggestion is encouraging teachers to give more homework that is off of the computer. It's really hard for us to be the whole school day staring at our computer, get out of school, get a snack, and then have to go back onto our computer to do our homework. And I can definitely say for myself, and I think for many others, that kind of makes it really hard to start my homework every night because it's like, oh, I've already been on my screen all day, like I need a break. But I have a few hours of homework to do. So definitely like offline homework would help. And then another thing is having breaks during classes. So some teachers do this on their own, but most kind of just take up the whole 85 minutes. And that can also hurt our focus levels because we're sitting in the same spot staring at the same screen. And over time, it's easy to lose focus. So having like 5-minute breaks in the middle of classes would definitely help as well.
I just wanted to add on to that. I think that something else that brings a lot of concern to me is that a lot of teachers, I feel like a lot of teachers are unsure about how much work they should be assigning. And I think that with time it become more predictable and more structured, because right now things are just, they're just beginning to settle, and with time it'll get better. But I think a lot of teachers, you have teachers that will spend and make the effort to give their students a lot of work and the entire class time. And maybe you don't need to take the entire class time. Maybe students can have a lecture period and then have time to do their own work. I guess what I'm trying to say is if a teacher thinks they should be signing a lot of more work than an AP class, like I'm going to give an example. I have one class that is an honors class, and it assigns more work than with my AP classes combined. And I think that I don't know a lot about the communication that goes on between teachers. I think it would be good to have a conversation, if there hasn't been one already, about how much work people are assigning, just for a little bit more predictability and structure, if that makes any sense.
Thanks. And other, Moira, did you have?
Yeah, I just want to really express my appreciation and admiration to the students, the way that you are really providing a really valuable role here, that your active pursuit of getting input from students about their experience, and you're being here to share it with us. I'm just very impressed and very appreciative. And I think that you're really playing a very, very important role in this time. And then I just want to say to Steve, I'm very excited about the projects that he described that are being funded by IPEI. Both of them are endeavors that I find really, really valuable and really important. So that's, and admiration for the teachers who got together to make the proposals, and who are willing, on top of things being so challenging right now, that they're taking on these new endeavors, which require collaboration and a lot of planning. So I thank them for making the proposals, and I am very grateful to IPEI for being able to fund them. That's it.
This Anna, first of all, I'm just going to reiterate, so I'll try not to be repetitive, but again, to the students, thank you so much, because I think the value of your insights is just so important and really helpful and really constructive. I'm just really appreciating that. And there are things that one may not have known otherwise, and the suggestions are really tangible. And one of the things that strikes me, actually, one of the ones that just jumped out is the idea of kind of coordinating that testing schedule. And I realized that that was the case even prior to COVID. I think, in regular coursework, where every teacher thinks theirs is the only class, and it's hard to know what another instructor is doing. So I think that that's something that's probably important now and probably important in the future. And so that I thought was I also thought the idea of, the breaking up the time and having a time for offline homework. And I think it's kind of funny too, because when I used to worry that my kids were spending too much time online. And I guess it's now when you have too much of a good thing, it's like, oh, it's way too much time online. It's sort of, you kind of want to just do anything but I think that's a really, really great tangible solution. And so I'm really glad that educators are all on the line to kind of hear it. And in terms of the Chromebook, I had a Chromebook myself, so I'm well aware of what a Chromebook can, could be frustrating. So I don't know, maybe there's other generations of Chromebooks that are maybe more capable. And just one other thing, just about IPI, those sound like fabulous projects. And it's exciting, especially to hear about the truck and the tools. And that sounds like wonderful inspiration, and just to get that experience. And so thank you so much for all the work and all the support that you give to the district. So thanks.
Hey guys, this is Eldred. Real quick, just to reiterate exactly what Ann said, Steve, the project around literacy is exactly what we have been talking about, right? Moving in that direction, as well as Trailer for Trades. I love it. That just sounds great. I'll follow up with you a little bit more about both of those and some other stuff we discussed. And I have a question for our executives. This issue about the quality of the Chromebooks is not new. It wasn't new before. We were stressing those devices to try and educate thousands of kids. I'm curious what you guys are hearing about that across the industry, and it's a big fix, right? If it needs to be fixed, it's a big fix. And also recognize that we can't control people's access to Wi-Fi or the quality, etc. So I'm just wondering what you guys are hearing about that on the ground, because that's where you live. Thanks.
I can address that briefly. Yeah, because I've been hearing it also, not just here, but all over the nation. It's one of those rare instances where the consumer or the end user is far outpacing the technologies. The Chromebook was never intended to have 6, 7 tabs open, and 2 or 3 of those being videos, and while at the same time doing text messages on the Chromebook. And my young people are probably, they're probably smiling at me because they know what I'm talking about. We've sent out a number of communications requesting that folks only have open 1 tab or to monitor your video usage, but that's sort of like, yeah, that's not going to always happen. So this device was, again, never intended to do what we're asking it to do. And when we all went virtual, all of a sudden, that only highlighted the issues that were taking place. Now we could upgrade, my friends at Apple and Cupertino just launched the new MacBook Pro and MacBook Air today. That's a $2,000 device. The ones that we were able to send out at scale, and I remind folks, it's the largest deployment of one-to-one devices in our state. And it was 7 years ago, and it still is. Yeah, we had to make some decisions on the cost. And we're in the midst of a lease agreement. And yes, I, like everyone else, would hope that the technologies will advance fast, and hopefully this pandemic will accelerate some things. In the meantime, we can make some decisions. We can figure out how to reallocate some resources to purchase the fancy Dell or the Apple that has a significant amount of capabilities. But even I'm oftentimes on in 2 or 3 Zoom calls at a time. A MacBook Pro can't keep up with that either. And many of our folks are asking us to have a device that can do it all. So it's a complex issue. We're hearing this, but yes, for having our educators and our students use a Chromebook in the ways we're asking it to be used, it's going to be problematic. And we can do some things to try to mitigate it some, but it won't be a solution. But again, we're back at the table talking about what do we do next. If the technologies don't advance fast enough, we may need to be reallocating resources to purchase some machines with faster processing skills.
Other comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to say in support of what Dr. Brown's saying, the Chromebooks were they were an additional device. They were something to use after school. They weren't supposed to be school. And thank God we have things like Google Hangouts and Zoom so learning can still go on. But this is, these devices were not purchased so that you could stay or had to stay home and do all your learning. They were something in addition to in-person instruction. And we have all been thrust into this situation that no one wants and no one is emotionally prepared to take on and no one is technologically prepared to take on. And we are just muddling through as best we can. And, thank you for bringing it to our attention, because I think that hopefully, especially at the middle school and high school level, there will have to be some additional consideration made to not ask students to engage in learning that the technology and human capability doesn't really emotionally support. But we are stuck between a rock and a hard place and trying to move forward with your best interests. And we, as everyone else has said, you need to tell us how it's working and how it's not working. And we have to make a best faith effort to work together to get you the learning that you want and need, and that our teachers are able to provide. And that is clearly a very big order, but we're committed to it. And thank you for being our partners.
And Pat, to your point, I think, if technology is an issue and there's no way to get around it right now, I mean, I hope that we can come up with ideas to perhaps maybe not have so many synchronous meetings, like if that's the issue, how can we work around the technology? I mean, I know in my home, I wish that we could turn off the computer more and not have my kids online. And I don't know how the middle school and secondary levels feel about that, but maybe it's time to look at a different box and think in that one. If we're having so many issues with technology until we can get that part fixed.
Nicole, do you wish to weigh in?
Nicole, you're muted.
Sorry, most of my fellow board members have, I'm sorry, Dr. Brown, my son would like to say hello to you. He heard your voice. He said to relay hello. I agree with most of the comments that I've heard tonight. First, I want to thank Steve Manley for your creativity and flexibility to work with our educators to fund amazing projects that help our educators creatively, imaginatively get ideas off the ground to engage with our students in different ways. I don't want Yael's comment to be lost. So if later Dr. Brown or Lily can speak to how our educators that are excelling at engaging with students, how we're trying to replicate that, as well as connect teachers with other teachers and supporting staff. Can you stop it, please? I want to also thank the students for showing up. Something that really stuck with me, I think Emma maybe had said, was feeling that teachers were struggling with how much work to give. I think that's really intuitive feedback. And if you're feeling that, I feel like that has to be reflective of energy that you're feeling from our teachers. And that just leads me to think, as board members and as an administration team, how much learning are we actually expecting all of our children from pre-K to 12th grade to actually be able to do during a crisis? When we're thinking about mental health, how much can our brains actually take as someone who is on between 6 to 8 Zoom meetings a day? How much can I actually digest? How much is my 7th grader actually able to digest? Obviously, parents want their kids to be excelling and to be able to get into these great colleges and all of the above. And if you don't want to go to college, also, that's fine too if you're joining the workforce. But thinking about the fact that we're living in a crisis and we're pushing our educators and we're pushing our students, how much are they actually going to obtain and what is their capacity? And are we thinking about those things as we're pushing out work? About the Chromebooks, as Dr. Brown as well as Pat stated, we're using them in a way in which they weren't created to use. I also want to be cognizant that across the country, we have students that don't have access to Chromebooks and they're still using paper. So I do want to also acknowledge that our students in the district do have privileges and access to privileges that some students across the country don't have. While they may not be up to the capacity that we want them to be, I also think it's great that students are able to engage in that way. I know that Zach said that we were possibly thinking about Zoom. I don't know where we are with that, but an update on that would be great. And I think that's all that I have. And I also appreciated the comment from one of the students about more homework that's not on the computer. As someone who's 35, it kind of blows my mind thinking about nearly all of my schoolwork having been concentrated on the Dewey Decimal and going to the library and actually going to museums and doing factual work versus my daughter sitting on a computer all day, even if we weren't in pandemic and doing her work online. So I appreciated the comment around more homework that is not on the computer.
Thanks, Nicole. Well said on multiple levels. Ithaca High, outstanding work. We look forward to your continuing input. Dr. Brown, we're going to move to you in a moment. Tricia, I would just ask if there's anyone in the chat or hand raised, from the public who wishes to weigh in before we move on. But outstanding work at Ithaca High, really appreciate, and ITI as well. But Tricia, anything?
Nothing in the chat, Rob. And
no, I appreciate that, Tricia. It is, we're a little after 7. I think Dr. Brown, we look forward to your comments. And then I know we have the Ithaca High team here with us and love to hear from them.
Sure, I'm looking forward to hearing from them as well. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Anthony, and good evening again to everyone. A special thank you first to the board members who participated in the virtual instructional rounds. Instructional rounds are sort of like walkthroughs or visits to classrooms. We did that in a virtual environment this week, which to thank the one educators who welcomed us into their rooms. I think we were all wowed by what we saw, but I got to tell you, it was also exhausting to see how our educators are working so hard in these digital environments to do what they do so well. So again, thank you to the board members who took the time out of your busy schedules to visit classrooms with us in a different and unique way. And as already mentioned, Karji and Saba did an outstanding job at the NISBA convention. I continue to get feedback from folks all over the state who tuned in to that virtual event. We had 2 of our Ithaca High School superstars, along with a young man, Noah, from Amityville High School. They did share their reflections on what it's like to be a person of color in a high school in 2020 and before that. They share very real experiences with the folks. And they also gave us very, very practical strategies about how to be better, how to cultivate equity and excellence in our spaces. From my perspective, it was by far the best session I had been a part of in my time going to conferences. And I was just very fortunate to be able to get out of the way and ask a question and get out of the way and let them show how brilliant they truly were. So again, thank you, Kava, thank you, Kai, for being who you are and sharing with our state. And not being nervous when I told you how many people were going to be tuning in, and that they didn't skip a beat. Also, just a special note, thank you to the staff and the families, all the folks who've been flexible with us. Ithaca High School has been out, not in the building the last couple of weeks, continued learning, but not in the building, but you transitioned back seamlessly. And it was 2 beautiful days to be at Ithaca High School and around Ithaca High School. So congratulations on being back in person. We had missed you. It was quiet around there. And then a special wish and a request for folks to be careful. I don't know if we're going to be together again. I don't think we will be together in another public meeting before the upcoming holiday and break. And I just want folks to be cognizant of, as you read the media, as you look in the media, you read the NSBA clips, you see school districts all over our state are grappling with staying open, just like we have been grappling with staying open. And what we do and our behaviors in the coming weeks are going to be important for us to be open after the Thanksgiving break. So I'm just asking folks to be careful, to monitor the health and safety guidelines, and pay special attention to the kind of travel that we're doing, particularly around sports. And what we do in these coming weeks will mean much to our community as we continue to try to be in person as much as possible. And with that, I am done, Mr. Ainsley. Again, thank you for the opportunity. And if we may, we could transition to Ms. Talcott and the wonderful educators from Ithaca High School who are here to share some things with us.
Dr. Brown, can I just take 1 second? And I see Jason and Corey on the line. I just want to remind everyone that they led a pretty powerful leadership session this summer, in which Saba participated, and I think contributed to their capacity to be calm and to be as focused and to be as impactful as they were. So I don't want to miss that. That was a pretty intense experience we went through. So shout out to Corey and Jason. It works. Thanks.
That's a good transition to Corey and Jason and Ms. Talcott. Y'all, I can't see you right now, but I know you're here.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you all. Thanks so much for joining. I don't have much to introduce Jason, Corey, Martha, and Jackie. They have done an extraordinary job connecting with our strictly distance learners and our hybrid learners, and they're going to talk a little this evening about how that's been going and what lies ahead. So with that, Mr. Trumbull.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right, Lily? Very good. So I want to thank the board for the opportunity to share our hybrid learning approach at the Ithaca High School. I know that Dr. Brown gets excited when we call it the Ithaca High School, and Mr. Ainsley as well. A huge thank you to all our staff. Our students, caregivers for really truly partnering to make this model work in a very different and often difficult circumstances. The Board of Ed reps, our students, you give us much to think about, and we're going to continue to partner with you to make sure that we get after the learning climate that we want to have. I also want to give a shout out to our CCS staff, folks like community leaders like Cal Walker and others that have joined our substitute teaching staff to help us move through and transition as we are doing. And frankly, the can-do attitude and ability to adapt as we need to adapt. The IHS admin team is here tonight to share different aspects of the work. Ms. Hardesty is here to talk about scheduling in a day in the life and what that looks like. Ms. Richardson is going to talk about kind of current planning, her vision and her approach to professional development that we're engaging in at the high school. Mr. Mitchell is going to talk a bit about what Eldred just referred to as our student community and voices partnering, so to speak. We did a lot of work this summer and continue that work to engage student voice. Ms. Arnold will also be talking about, she's here as well as a full partner, we'll be talking about our learning management system in Canvas. So if we take a look at the first slide, that's very intentional. When we talk about hybrid learning at the Ithaca High School, we really intention to put two pictures at the front of the campus. In essence, the message is that we're a work in progress. We're getting better. There's no two ways about it with each week, with the new approaches that we're really trying to thoughtfully roll out to and engage students. Those new approaches, as we introduced over the summer, are 85-minute blocks. That increases our time between students and teachers, not requiring folks to be online for 85 minutes, but really dedicated time that's predictable and allows us to pivot in and online if we need to. But hopefully the idea is that we continue to grow and provide, as you said, many of the students that homework outside that screen time option. So we can talk more about that as we move along. You know about our cohort model at the secondary level and coming back to school, so to speak, in person was like a shot in the arm for all of us this week. So that was wonderful to have happen. Along with the new approaches, we maintained a lot of what we valued. We worked hard over the summer to maintain our course offerings. I struggle to think of high schools around the country, if not the nation, that offer 11 different English 12 courses. So we're able to protect the programming and those kind of things. I walked through the auditorium the other day to see Mrs. Howell and then the band. She's all mic'd up. She's got a computer in front of her, and students spread 12, 14 feet apart all throughout the Culp auditorium. So those are the mental images that we want to take and build upon. But I'll turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Hardesty, who'll talk about scheduling, and we'll go through the slides that we have with you. And we're certainly here for a conversation. We appreciate the time that you've given us. So Ms. Hardesty, you want to talk a bit about scheduling?
Can everybody hear me? I have a little bit of a voice issue going on this evening. You can hear me, Jason?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Well, thank you all very much for giving us this opportunity. I have the pleasure and great pleasure of being able to present to you about what's going on with scheduling. And when we first started the cohort model and having to schedule students, it was a daily process. From one day to the next, we were kind of just figuring out where kids were going to land the next day. Many of them landed in very large learning spaces because they were students who were in person, but their teacher was remote. So the picture here is an example of one of the teachers that we have who's doing an outstanding job of teaching not only to the students, but to his remote students as well. And that's something we're striving for, is to get all teachers be able to really be focusing and teaching that true hybrid model. And want to showcase those. This happens to be Michael DeVito, who is one of our newly added LTSs, who's teaching an English class. And as you can see, he's engaging in both the students and with his computer. He's in a classroom space, which is where we hope to have all of our kids. There are still students who are in the large gym spaces for study halls, for BOCES classes. Kids who are coming down from BOCES need a space to go for that transition time between the time they get out of BOCES and the time they would normally get home. And so making those accommodations for those students. As we progress, we've now added a week-to-week model where we can actually look at the students that we'll have for a whole week and plan that out for our CCSs so they have a roster of kids, trying to give them the same groups every week so they can develop relationships with those kids as well. That being said, with the flipping and flopping of kids going from in-person to distance learning and vice versa, that has made it a challenge. And we have taken that challenge on and come up with a process, thanks to working closely with my colleagues, being able to come up with a process that's really working smoothly. Speaking of students who are coming back and request to be in person, we did have a long wait list of students, about 45 to 60 kids that wanted to come back to be in their cohort, of which we didn't have room. We didn't have the ability to put them in a classroom with a capacity. Most classes are on an average of 11 to 12 kids can be in a room. Since then, we've been able to adjust things and take a look at different models as far as how we're going to put kids in rooms and how we can put the kids who are actually in person with a remote teacher grouped together with other students has really helped us to bring back. So we brought back everybody that was on the wait list that wanted to come back before Thanksgiving. We've now also created a wait list for the second semester for those who decide that they want to wait till second semester. As far as that goes, scheduling has, as you can imagine, has been a big part of our day and our mindset, but now feeling really comfortable about where we're at and kind of that, that learning curve is starting to level out. At that point, I will turn the rest of this over to my colleague, Jackie Richardson.
Hello all, and thank you, as my colleagues said before me, for this opportunity to share out some of the work that we have done and the work that we have yet ahead. IHS teachers, students, admin, student support staff, we'll be working together in committees to guide and inform our professional learning and to really continue to ensure that our work and the decisions made are student-centered, supportive, and conducive to all student learning, as well as providing guidance and support for our instructional staff. This work will be guided by district policy, and we recognize that there is much work to be done to create shifts in school culture, to being anti-racist, and that systems that were previously inequitable we're addressing. Some of our departments have already begun to make these shifts in curriculum and instruction and material selection, as Mr. Manley spoke to from IPEI. We have a ruler implementation team comprised of support staff, teachers, admin, who will receive training and continue the work from the previous school year to build upon social emotional learning. And again, working towards creating a school culture that upholds student well-being and mental health. We heard our students talk about that, speak to that tonight. We want IHS to be a place where all of our students feel a sense of belonging and that their voices are recognized, welcomed, valued, and that each and every single student is treated with care and respect as contributing members of our school. In the near future, we will also be offering professional development to support our teachers with hybrid teaching and instruction, as we also recognize the serious and significant challenges of teaching students in person and remote students simultaneously. Over the summer, we had department leaders identify teachers who were exemplars during the spring remote learning. And we hope to create more opportunities for our teachers to continue to learn from these peer models. I'm going to hand it off now to Corey Mitchell, AP Corey Mitchell. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everyone. Honored to have this opportunity, as well as my colleagues, to present and share some of the work that we're doing for our wonderful students and staff at IHS. One of the things I like to focus on is an emphasis on developing strong relationships and improving the relationships that exist between our teachers and our students. Lily Talcott has graciously offered us some financial support where we can create an opportunity for teachers to go out and visit physically distanced and safely with some of our students, particularly our students who are struggling. We're going to start that with our 9th grade students who are new to the building. We found out about another twist to that today. Part of the connections that we're working is improving our connection with Southside Community Center. Met with Dr. Nia, and what we're looking to do is to do a collaborative approach where members of the community and our teachers get together and connect with those families and hear what's going on and how we best can support them. We are working on creating a virtual student connection space. As you heard from some of our student reps on the board tonight, students are challenged with a lot of social emotional challenges with the virtual learning, shifts that have happened in their families as a result of the pandemic. There's a lot that our students are carrying. And what we want to do is give our students an opportunity to have a break away from the academics. So we're going to create a virtual student connection space where students can just get together and be kids, be teenagers, and talk about some of the things that are going on with them and connect with kids that are in the virtual world. When many of our kids are in person, we want to improve those connections so they can just feel good about themselves and talk things up. We're continuing our community outreach to continue to build bridges with community. As Eldred and a few others spoke about our iRise group, which is a student intern group that we created this summer. iRise stands for Ithaca Students Rising and Succeeding in Education. We have about, I want to say, 20 students that we've been working with. Had the pleasure and a huge opportunity from the graciousness from the Dorothy Cotton Institute, who provided funding for 14 of our IHS students to participate in the Facing Race virtual conference. Today was the first day. We have 3 chaperones, myself, Suki Tabor. Suki has been phenomenal in partnering with us to support the internship and provided mentoring, provided training for our students over the course of the summer, and we are working to continue that program. The The Facing Race Conference will continue through the week. We have 2 more days, tomorrow and Thursday, and we are really looking forward to what our kids will get out of that and connecting that energy from the conference with what they have produced over the summer to continue the work and getting our students as well in front of our teachers and talking about their shared experiences and their challenges, particularly as students of color. I already talked about the connection with Southside. Southside is also looking to support us with tutoring and with just overall support. Dr. Nia has shared with us, there's a number of families that have reached out to her, a number of community volunteers that are looking to give back and help us with the work that we're trying to do to support our young people moving forward. Through the collaboration with IPEI, Mr. Manley, we have our first student director, Kai Henderson. Kai is a rock star. He also participated in the state superintendent school boards meeting recently with Dr. Brown and also with another one of our iRide students, Saba Weatherspoon. We're very, very proud of Kai. He's doing amazing things. He's also a member of our aspiring educators. So this is a young man that we opened the door and offered him opportunities, and he's taken advantage of every one of those that are we put in front of him. And we continue our relationship and growth with GIAC in the village of Ithaca. The village of Ithaca has been super supportive in providing tutoring services for many of our students who are challenged by the virtual learning that really would benefit from in-person. So they've provided that tutoring support, and they've also provided space for students that want to get out of their house but they don't want to go to the high school. They've chosen virtual instruction. They're more comfortable in the smaller setting that the village offers. So we'll continue to work on those relationships and others throughout the community to support our students, and we will work together to get through this pandemic. I'm going to pass this off to our wonderful new colleague, Karen Arnold, who's going to talk about Canvas.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I know I've spoke a little bit about Canvas, but with this and the blended learning, just want to say there were some new things that we're going towards. And I wanted to thank the students and your perspective. It really does help as we move forward. But one of the things that we're looking at is learning mastery. We've just had learning outcomes, and the standards are now uploaded onto Canvas. So we're going to be looking for people to pilot those and go more of a learning mastery route in their courses. We're looking at grading schemes and how to change them. And we'll be working with the committees on grading also. So again, looking at student voice and what's working in Canvas and what's not, and having groups come together. So we've done some of that in a very informal way, just going around speaking to students, hey, what works, what doesn't work. So we're going to be heading up some groups to get more student voice on that, to see, they have the perspective of when a teacher puts an assignment on this way, it's very user friendly. When a teacher does this way, not so much so. So those are the things that we're looking for. And what was spoken about earlier is like, how do we replicate that? Because some of it is just a click of a button and teachers would want to know that. So again, looking to fully partner with the students and move forward with Canvas and the professional development, be working with Ms. Richardson on that. So thank you.
And with that, we'll continue the conversation or address any questions you have, and recognize that we are on a journey. There's no two ways about it. And again, we're getting better, but the confluence of the student perspective is going to be a big one for us to continue to move together as a community. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Trumbull. Questions, comments for the Ithaca High team?
Hi everyone, Nicole with Ithaca. I was wondering if it would be possible to hear from Jason and his associate principals their thoughts on what the students this evening presented.
Yeah, I think that's, I'll speak, I think students have, they're right on the ground floor, so to speak, in terms of what we need to do to listen and continue to partner. We have multiple modes of student voice, and student reps of the boards are the activists that we need and want, and we need to channel those energies so that we collectively as a school move forward with action planning. So whether it be Chromebooks, whether it be, I'm thinking of the continued breaks, how we encourage an academic calendar that, and again, that's not a new issue either in terms of making sure that we're not overwhelming students at the 5-week marking period, the 10-week marking period, those kind of things. Like I said, we did a lot of groundwork of empowering student voice over the summer. We're going to continue that. And so Board of Ed reps know that we're going to be meeting here in a couple of days to talk a bit about what you're sharing here so we can strategize and move together like this. So we very much appreciate that. Other thoughts from team members?
Sure. I will say that I think it was incredibly helpful, and I want to thank our students for also extending an opportunity to hear other student voices through their surveys that have really provided an opportunity for them to be heard. And you know, hearing you all speak about workload and having a more predictable and structured method of delivering to students and being mindful that the screen time is excessive. And that, so I guess what I really want to say is that it was heard. And as we move forward, we hope to have you all continue to share out your voices and come meet with us so that we can really work on all of the things that you presented, which were incredibly valuable to hear.
I'd like to also jump in and share with our student reps, the board. Honored that you are representing the high school, that you're putting that voice out there and you're bringing these issues to everyone's attention. I would love for us to have, again, the opportunity to get you together with some of our other student groups and collectively work together with our department leaders and teachers so they can hear some of the challenges directly head on from what's going on and how students are trying to manage this, how they're trying to cope, the challenges that are, giving them a hard time. And I think collectively working together, we can identify the solutions that will move everyone forward. So we will definitely be in touch with you. I think the proposal of what we're doing with the student virtual connection space will help to address some of that and give all of our students or any students that participate a break from the screens, but in a more relaxed sense. It's not that you're going to be staring and doing academics. You'll be staring and connecting with other kids, and that's going to be important because that's one of the pieces that's missing with so few students being back at the high school. So we look forward to working with you and moving the process forward.
I'd like to reiterate everything everybody said. I really appreciate your voices this evening. You have been heard. I, in particular, looking at the testing schedules and spreading those out, that's something that we did in the spring. It's something that we need to be reminded of, and I really appreciate you doing that because that's a big focus to be able to balance your stressors and balance your workloads. I also really appreciate hearing about the screen time and the wish to have more offline classwork. And I think about the ways in which we can do that by utilizing work-based learning and utilizing the experiences that you have in jobs and also project-based learning as well. So I would go on a little bit, but obviously it's probably brutal to even listen to my voice right now. But I really do appreciate Adam, I hope you do get together and finish this survey for the teachers, because I think the teachers will respond to students in a different way in which they respond when the administration sends out a survey. And I'd be really interested in seeing the questions that you as students come up with that and how that works out. And we look forward to, let's meet. I really think it would be important for us all to sit down and talk. Thank you.
Other comments from the board, questions?
I had a question for Dr. Brown, actually. I was wondering if you would like to report on our first SSAC meeting. And of course, if you don't want to, I can just read it off.
And I didn't catch all of that, but I think I heard your wishes to report out about our Student Advisory Council meeting. And I would love for you to share some.
We had some a pretty good conversation and a lot of
Or is it my?
Bandwidth is low. It might help. I hate to make you invisible until you turn your video off, but sometimes when you turn your video off, your sound is better, but we can't really hear you. You're breaking up.
Is my internet? Can you guys hear me?
With my.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Have you now, Emma?
Yes.
Oh, no. Yes, okay. I was wondering if Dr. Brown wanted to report on our first SSAC meeting. And if you don't want to, Dr. Brown, I'm happy to do so.
I'm always going to defer to you, Emma. Please know that. So if you wish to share some highlights from our, I'm sure other people will as well.
Okay. I can just read off some notes. Basically, so there was plenty of attention brought to the difficulty with Google Meets and other tabs. There's plenty of attention brought to that. Dr. Brown specified use Zoom instead of Google Meet. It is available to them if they ask. Many students feel there's confusion among teachers about the best way to teach and structure their classes. There's a lot of concern regarding how students are going to have the same experience in their distance classes in more physical classes such as ceramics, art, and gym classes. Attention was brought to racism in our schools, specifically Black History Month. Students feel there isn't enough emphasis on it in classes, and many students aren't brought to the presentations in class. In my personal experience, I think last year, none of my teachers even mentioned that it was going on. For the students that do attend Black History Month presentations, they said that our school has invited the same people to present, and they feel there's room for new perspectives and new people, and a lot of more attention can be brought to Black History Month within our school. And yeah, that's about it.
Thanks, Emma. Dr. Brown, did you get most of that?
I did. It was well stated. I hope other folks heard it as well. It was as always, a great conversation. We, again, that group meets monthly, and that was the first session, the first time we'd ever met virtually, and we will be meeting again soon. And as now that Emma's here, I'm sure we'll have a report out each time we meet.
Outstanding. Other questions for the team from the board?
I don't actually have a question. I just have a couple of comments. One is just thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And one of the things that struck me about this entire experience of this pandemic is how much innovation is taking place literally all the time, and how much flexibility we've had to, both students and the teachers, and the admin. And so some of the things that seem kind of a silver lining to me in a way is the kind of dialogue that's taken place tonight that's been so direct. It's like, this is what you're experiencing, this is how you're getting your education, this is what you are, and then having that kind of direct response from the people who are actually kind of trying to make things work. So I just want to just reiterate, just again, thank you for the feedback from the students, but also thank you to all the teachers and to the admin who are really working under really adverse circumstances, but finding really innovative ways to make the best experience possible. And I just want to say too about one idea in particular that just stood out was the kind of community connection idea. I really, where you have something just for students, and that seems really a really great direction, because it seems when everything's online, it would be hard to actually have that otherwise. So that seems like a great innovation. So again, thanks so much.
Other comments?
If no one else has anything, would any of you be able to speak to your grading policies this semester or this quarter, whichever, but how you all are approaching talking to educators about grading assignments and final grades as it relates to virtual programming, some students not being able to have access or reliable access to internet and things of that nature.
I could speak a little bit to that. We had a meeting today with department leaders, and Zach and I are looking at, a very technical part in Canvas. There's a open grading period and a closing, and there's terms, and there's all these different things that would happen. And one thing that I thought was really great that came out of it is it'll be 10 weeks before anything truly closes, where students will not have access to Q1 work. And I thought that was pretty positive. They know that some students might not access it right away. They want to make sure that they're going back in and getting it, that they're getting their lab time and their lab minutes. So that's definitely a very recent conversation that happened with grading, and some conversations that came out today in department leadership that I thought were really, really powerful, that they all agreed, like, nope, let's keep it open so that all these assignments from Q1 are available in Q2 for those students that need to access it. So, and I don't know if Jackie wants to add anything to that.
I was going to jump in and just say, we have developed some committees for both attendance and for grading. And so our attendance committee, the committees are actually made up of staff and students and all the staff and students. And we're really trying to come up with something that's equitable for everyone, and understanding that during these times right now, my own personal experience has been that students are so overwhelmed with so many things that to not take a look at grading and make it something that's never happened before, right? It's a whole new world right now we're in, and we have to look at a whole new world of grading to make it so that everybody has equitable access and everybody has the opportunity to get work turned in. And Jackie, I'll let you add from there.
We are asking a lot from our teachers, and in terms of looking at how they teach and provide instruction, asking them to change and being flexible. And we, as Miss AP Hardesty had just mentioned, and I did prior, was that we have committees that we are beginning to have many staff members volunteer for, which is excellent. And we are going to be taking a much closer look and a deeper dive into our grading practices. And we need to continue to ensure that our teaching and instruction and grading practices are flexible in this time. We have to really look at what we're assessing and how we're assessing, and what we really want from what we're really looking at. What measures are we using, and are they actually evaluating what we want from our students, the learning. So I will say that this is going to be, it's not a quick fix, and we most certainly are putting very concerted effort towards making some changes that are flexible, and being very mindful of our students and their caregivers and accessibility.
We held a community forum over the summer and engaged many families. And the thing that we continued to hear was communication around expectations and what success looks like. And folks were very receptive and offered a lot of concrete examples of extended deadlines, the purpose of deadlines, what is it that we're measuring, why are we measuring those things. So it was pretty fruitful conversation from a community standpoint. And Jack is exactly, all my colleagues are exactly right, that this conversation is going to continue to dig deep and really evaluate our practices and engage families in the and students in the dialogue and conversation, as opposed to educators making the policies and protocol shifts and then having folks subject to them, so to speak.
No, thanks, Nicole, and thanks everyone. We would realize there's a lot of work going on now. We would sure like to hear in a few weeks, or frankly, obviously at the beginning of December, what does grading look like? What is it? Where are we going with it once you all have your conversations and your work, on that ongoing work? So it would be great to have an update before the end of the year, obviously. So that'd be great. Jackie, Aaron, Martha, outstanding work. Appreciate it. Adam, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I have a question, sort of a suggestion about grading. So this past week, so I'm on the board of the Tatler as well. And this past week, we were discussing potential editorials for this month, and a topic that came up was grading systems. And we had a discussion about kind of grading policies and how maybe those could change to kind of help students. And one thing that we came up with was potentially, I guess, abolishing the late penalty for work that isn't like new curriculum or tests, because we feel that maybe like busy work isn't the word, but we are getting a lot of like assignments that aren't like new material or things like meant to kind of test our abilities. And it can be hard to keep up with so many assignments that are more about getting them done than learning, like new material. And so it can be very hard to keep track of those and turn everything on time. And some teachers have very harsh late penalties. And we feel that maybe kind of introducing a rule or a standard that like assignments of those types aren't penalized for being late would definitely help students both keep up with their work and I guess it would help people's mental health as well, because they don't feel so bogged down in work.
Can I respond to that, Adam? Is that okay? Okay, great.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That is a very welcomed suggestion. I will say that, again, we really at the high school are going to be taking a closer look at in terms of flexibility. I think you made some very valuable suggestions. I think many of us agree, this leadership team agrees that we want to most certainly not penalize students, and that we also would like our instructional staff to move towards really prioritizing the work that they give students and really looking at what is necessary to advance their learning and reduce the workload that you all spoke to a little bit earlier. And again, recognizing that there's a significant amount of work to be done online, and that is a lot. It's too much work online. So again, having our instructors and teachers, our teaching professionals really look at prioritizing work and learning for their students. Thank you.
Yes, it's Moira. I am absolutely thrilled that serious, in-depth discussions are being had about grading policies. It's been something that I've been thinking about for many, many years, but specifically for my time on the board, which is going on 6 years, it's been something that I've been anxious to have that conversation. And I know it's very, very, very difficult. But it seems like, our crisis, the pandemic, has made many people realize how, what has been policies and practices in the past are just not going to work in this current environment. I also want to say, it's amazing how many various initiatives are taking place across the district and many at Ithaca High School. It's very heartening. The one thing that I would say, and this goes back to my experience teaching at Ithaca High, that a danger is when a lot of different groups are working on a lot of different initiatives, but they're working in silos, or they're not aware of what else is going on. It can be a lost opportunity to collaborate and work together, but it can also be a real problem when people discover, I've been working on this initiative and this other group has been working on an initiative, and our work is in some way at odds or in conflict. So I would just really urge an effort to, and it would have to be very streamlined because there's so much going on, but to make people aware of all of these groups and what are the issues that they are focusing on, so people could see, oh, over here we're working on this. Well, the work they were doing seems connected, so let's try to talk to each other. But I can't believe how much work is going on, and I am just so impressed by the good grace that I have seen from people who are working so very hard. So thank you all.
Thanks, Tamara. Anyone else wish to weigh in? Mr. Trumbull, I'm not hearing anyone else at this time. Mr. Trumbull, on top of everything else, Ithaca High is an active construction site, and we will get capital project updates in a few minutes. But we look forward to the Welcome Center being complete and various other projects around Ithaca High this fall being complete, but there's still more to come. So more improvements to learning spaces and your spaces, and yeah, there's still more to happen at Ithaca High, but we hope that we will get everything complete, Mr. Trumbull, soon. And I'm going to be asking those questions in a few minutes about deadlines and when we're finally done this fall. But we appreciate your patience, your ability to work around the schedules of for the contractors and getting the work done and being adjustable to what's been going on in that campus for, well, since last spring and still ongoing. So thanks for your efforts and thanks for your patience.
Thank you, and I do speak for the Ithaca High School community when I say thank you to the board for all your diligence and everything that you push for us. This will be great for students. This will be great for families. As I'm in the Community and Family Welcome Center right now, it's a pretty cool space. It's going to be the home to many engaging conversations. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do for us. And the Ithaca High School is adaptable, and we continue to display that. Right, Dr. Brown?
Thank you, Jason and team. Outstanding. Really appreciate the continued input from our students, and it's really you're our voices. You're our boots on the ground. You four have been very much more involved with what is going on in the district than perhaps our past student reps, and so we really appreciate. We encourage it, and we look forward to more conversations with the Ithaca team soon. But really appreciate your efforts tonight. And Martha and others should go rest their voices for a while. Tomorrow's another day, but thanks everyone. And we're going to move on at this time to Blended Learning Development Team is going to talk for a few minutes, and then we'll go on to capital project updates. So thanks everyone.
Thanks everybody. Just wanted to talk a little bit about our new Blended Learning Team. It's a new team of educators, caregivers, and students. We're really looking at building, creating, reimagining blended and hybrid learning experiences. And we're also going to be looking at a framework that we created and getting some feedback in it. So our work is going to be grounded again in the work by Dr. Goldie Muhammad and her 4 lenses. Our work's going to center around students thinking critically, learning who they are, asking questions, growing intellectually, and of course, experiencing joy. And we'll also connect to our 3 levers of inclusion. It will be innovative, and we will connect to culturally responsive practices. We'll look at a lot of the Shiraki Holly work in connecting to culturally responsive practices. We'll also, and I know I've talked about this before, we'll also really work on the power and the strength of the teacher-student relationship and the power of what we can all accomplish together. So the team's going to have a few tasks and goals. The first task, of course, will be to gather information and feedback. We want to know what's working well in distance learning and in hybrid learning. We want to know what needs our attention in both. When we're looking at the framework, which will be a talking point for us, we'll look at specific strategies used, if we can add some strategies, if we can add some resources, and maybe other tools. And then, really exciting part is building, creating exemplary learning experiences. We'll be looking at project-based learning, multidisciplinary approaches like case study, looking at examples by grade band, and that would mean like K1, 2, 3, and so on, or at the secondary level, looking at the department or content area, excuse me. So we're going to cast a pretty broad net for teachers, specialists, substitute teachers, ESPs, administrators, students, of course, and caregivers. And again, looking at elementary and grade bands. And for example, like in a K1 band, we would look at between 3 and 4 teachers in that group. And similarly, at the in the secondary level, looking at subject department areas and looking at also 3 to 4 teachers. We plan on launching this with teachers and staff after Thanksgiving. We're going to break it out so that elementary teams will meet on a different day from secondary teams. We really think we can really narrow down and zoom in to work a lot deeper if we break out into these teams. And the good news is we've already recruited 46 participants and still in the process of recruiting some more students and caregivers. So I just wanted to provide an update of what we're doing. Any questions?
Anything for Dan? Appreciate the update, Dan. I guess we'll look forward to more updates as we move forward. No, thank you. And I guess we should move on to capital project updates. We have not checked in for a while at the board level. We do have meetings later this week and then next week regarding facilities, but I think it'd be a good opportunity just to as we're finishing up the field and hopefully the Welcome Center, and there's other projects all around the district, and I'll hand it on.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us. We have a presentation that we're going to share that's strictly about the capital project phase 1 of the elements that have already occurred. Okay, so as you can imagine, trying to do a capital project in the time of COVID is exceptionally difficult. And so I want to first thank all of the members of the team here that are on this call, specifically from the high school and many other places. We have the facilities department at the Ithaca City School District that's been absolutely incredible. Our partners at Tetra Tech and our partners at Campus Construction have also been amazing. And so I'm just going to try here to get this going to a full screen so that you can sort of follow along in all of the work that we've been doing. So we've been dealing with supply chain issues. We've been dealing with workforce that were unsure about safety, concerns. We were workforce members that we had bid projects and they were part of the project, and they actually were out then perhaps on furloughed or on unemployment, and some of the federal monies that were coming to workforce members were actually outpacing the money they would have made on the job. So we had some issues with workforce, but all in all, we continue to persevere. And again, it's really about the team that will be joining me for the question and answer session at the end. I'm going to go through some of the slides just to give everybody an overview, and then I will turn it over to Chris Galbitz and Cindy Doucette and Kim Gray to answer any questions that the board has. So I'm going to go element by element for phase 1 in the current work that's been done or is being done. So you're going to see some photos here that are either in process or that are completion items. And so obviously this is ever evolving. And so these are moments in time, and we may even be further today than this photo shows. But I'm going to start with the elementary school upgrades. And so we're going to start with Bell Sherman and Bell Sherman Annex, which were 2 of the schools of 4 that actually received some vestibule redesigns to create a space where we could welcome visitors, and also that is protected from the elements and allow for interaction with staff members. So essentially at the annex, if you've ever been to the annex before, you actually could walk right into the learning environment, which was the library. So we took a little bit of space from a classroom, we created a corridor, we were able to close that corridor off as an entryway, and then we have a greeter or a staff person there. And in the Bell Sherman building itself, there was sort of a little bit of a vestibule created, but it actually didn't have access to the office. So it was a vestibule, but then you had to go into the building to actually speak to a staff person. So we've actually created sort of a greeter window in that vestibule space, expanded that vestibule space a bit, and so that we can actually have, again, person-to-person interaction. That has been really key for us. We want to make sure that our buildings still feel welcoming, even though we're creating safety in those buildings. Beverly J. Martin was another elementary school that we actually created quite a design for, in terms of having the ability to have a vestibule space. If you remember, or ever been in Beverly J. Martin, you used to walk into that main entryway, those red doors there. If you actually needed access because either you might be in a wheelchair or you were on crutches, you'd actually have to go to another door because this door had stairs. So you'd have to go to another door. Somebody would have to greet you over at that door and bring you in. So that was a separate entrance. You would walk into the main building if you were able to use that door, and you'd have to go through a hallway, cross over the main hallway into the building to get into the main office. And so again, there was a lot of sort of entry into that building. And so the whole spirit of a lot of these redesigns were to be able to create spaces to welcome people and then have the learning happening behind that main office or that welcome space. So Beverly J. Martin space combined an entry hallway with part of a classroom to create a main office that was adjacent to that main entrance, those doors there. And they did not have that before this capital project. We also had that site work done to address the issue of having a main entrance that welcomed everyone. So there's actually a ramp now that you can use to go up to that main door and have the same accessibility as all. So all community members will be welcome. One of the buildings that we don't have photos of, but that is happening and will be happening soon, is also Enfield Elementary. That was one that was supposed to happen this summer. Again, due to a lot of the supply chain issues due to COVID, we had troubles getting storefronts, which are like aluminum that the doors would go in, the doors themselves. And so we actually had to delay that to a bit into the school year. It's not an enormous project. It's not like a major redesign like we see here at Beverly J. Martin. And so that one can actually be done in a little bit shorter of time frame and not as disruptive. And so we still anticipate that we'll have that happening sooner rather than later. And I know, Rob, we'll get to timelines sort of in the question and answer sort of scheduling for those things as well. One other part of phase one in terms of the elementary entryways, remember that we had to break up those entryways over 2 summers. So this is the work that's reflective of the 2020 summer. In 2021, we will be seeing new entryways and construction in Fall Creek, Northeast, and Cayuga Heights. In Caroline, they had an entryway redesign a few years ago, and we used some funds called capital outlay funds that are built into the budget to be able to redesign their entryway and create that vestibule. What Caroline needed was a little bit grander. And if you can see here, this is an aerial view sort of from the back playground and back green space looking onto Route 13 in front of you. And so that is that was identified early on, and that area that you see there, that's sort of that dirt space, is the entire map of essentially the septic system. And so the Caroline septic system, through the early planning process, it was determined that it was quickly approaching the end of useful life. And so that's a risk you don't want to take. You don't want that to actually end its useful life. You want to repair that and replace that prior just to the end of the useful life. And so that's what we did. We replaced the entire system. If you have young people who really love construction vehicles, or you yourself love construction vehicles, but maybe you don't want to admit it on this meeting, you should check out the YouTube channel for the Ithaca City School District. We have some absolutely fantastic video of some really great footage of all of the equipment and construction vehicles that are there, and you'll be able to see a lot more of this. If you were to go there now, you'd see that there's actually, this is all seeded. It's starting to become green again. We need a season for that grass to actually come back. So the Caroline community has been amazingly supportive. This is typically where they host soccer. And so they have found alternate locations and have been so patient and kind with us as that grass grows back. And soon, before we know it, they will have a beautiful green space that underneath it is an amazing operation to ensure that that building functions properly in terms of the septic system. Another project that you can see from an aerial view. So this is South Hill. South Hill will be getting an entryway redesign, and actually we will be almost flipping the way traffic comes into the building away from the entryway more in the neighborhood up there to sort of the top of this picture, more to the 96B side. And we're going to be creating traffic flow that will work better in a space where folks can come into a large vestibule, and it'll be, you know, there'll be some glass there so that kids can wait and see their parents coming in, or family members coming in. And so that's going to be coming. But this year we actually took care of the roof, which again, if you're going to hear that term sort of coming to the end of its useful life. Roofs all have sort of a time frame in terms of how long they can last. And so this roof was getting close, and we wanted to make sure that we repaired it before there were issues or major issues. And so this was 38,000 square feet of roof that was replaced in this summer. ahead of schedule, which was wonderful considering all of the challenges that we faced with COVID and the capital project. We also were pretty mindful here in terms of the insulation. We wanted to increase underneath the roof membrane, the thickness of that insulation in order to meet new energy code standards, and also probably will support the efficiency of the building inside as well, which is really important for us. We're trying to do those measures as much as possible. So that's the elementary buildings for right now. I do want to mention that, again, there will be more elementary work being done. This is just capturing what has occurred thus far in the summer of 2020. Next, we'll move to transportation department. I think that this was one of those it's not quite before, because if we had a before picture, it would be gravel. So this was about 105,000 square feet of gravel parking lot, housing millions of dollars of buses that had terrible potholes and, ankle twisters, and it was, not well lit, and it wasn't really, it's kind of on a hillside, so the drainage was awful. So this was entirely regraded. It was prepared for electric buses. So what we did was underneath that paving, we installed conduit so that if and when, which is the when, actually not the if, but the when we are ready to get our fleet incorporated with electric buses, we will have the opportunity to be able to create those charging stations right underground and not disrupt this paving. And that paving there, or the paving there to the right, is a real picture. It looks brand new and clean and fantastic, and it's exactly what our transportation department deserves. They have tirelessly worked through the closure. They moved their space up to the mall. They worked out of an office there. They parked the buses at the mall, and they modified and adapted wonderfully, and we can't thank them enough, and we hope that they really appreciate this space. We're also working on the garage there as well to enhance the heating there, so that folks that are working on the buses all through all of the seasons, including the dead of winter, are comfortable and able to work in those spaces in a manner that is respectful to the work that they do. So that's the transportation department for you. We're going to move on then to athletics before we get to the Ithaca High School. Okay, so athletics, it does incorporate oftentimes other campuses beyond the Ithaca High School, but this one actually, the two projects that we will be talking about that happen and are happening in 2020 happen to be at the Ithaca High School. So this is aerial views, sort of it's not quite a before, but it's sort of after the before, and then an after that's not quite completed yet. So I'll explain. So with Joe Moresco Stadium, we removed all of the bleachers. It was a much needed upgrade. There was actually some safety concerns and again, some accessibility concerns. We removed the original press box that was from 1964. And we took out the, what you can see there, the turf, which is essentially carpet that also has a life to it that was definitely reaching beyond its life, and the track, which also in a number of areas was degraded and unsafe, right? And so this was all, again, just totally redone, regraded. We recycled the rubber material that's found within the carpet that's actually like put into the carpet to fluff it up and keep it soft and safe. We added additional padding underneath that. You'll see there that there's paving around the track. I'm sure you notice that there aren't any lines there. That is because we unfortunately ran out of the season that it takes to be able to lay that material, that softer, kind of bouncier material on top of the paving for the track. So that's going to have to wait to the spring, but the field itself is near completion. It's lined, it's ready to go to host events as soon as the restrictions from COVID are uplifted and we're able to do these things again. We'll have that. You'll notice in this picture as well, the press box is not quite up yet, but you know, they continue every day. I mean, it could be up now. I haven't driven by yet, but you know, this is ongoing, and so we'll be filled in on that as well. The next bit of athletics that's also in the Ithaca High School is the pool. This one is a before and it's an after, but clearly not finished. The pool, I would say, is probably the most challenging components or elements of the capital project for phase 1 for the summer of 2020. Folks that have done pools, other districts that have done pools, you always know that pool renovations can be challenging. And so, you know, when you drain the water and you start to pull up tile and take out bleachers and remove the tile from inside the pool, which, by the way, if you notice there, it's sort of a dark tile with white lane lines, that actually is no longer to code. It actually needs to be reversed. So we were grandfathered in. So there's safety issues and just mechanical issues, and the drains we wanted to change, and we wanted to change that tiling. So once you start to get in there, we discovered that as the team, the workforce was taking out that tile, they realized that as they went down, problems arose. And so we had to bring in experts that were unanticipated to give us information about the material that was used in that pool, and would that tile that we wanted to put in adhere to that material? Did we need to actually chip off that material and go deeper? And so that took a lot of time. COVID also struck the elements of the pool that we needed. So supply chain issues have been really challenging to get all of the metal and pieces that we need for the drainage. So this was anticipated to be completed August 14th, 2020. We knew that that was a long shot early on, the minute we saw that we had some issues when we were removing the tile. We then extended the deadline to essentially the end of this month. We need to extend that deadline again. And so we are hopeful that by January 30th of 2021, the pool will be complete. But we want to continue to be open-minded and hopeful that we'll get this done. And the athletics department, specifically Ms. Little as the athletic director, and the coaches and the team members and the family members, we've been in constant communication, and they have been exceptionally supportive. If things are lifted and we are able to actually do sports traditionally, obviously we will be looking to our partners such as Cornell and Ithaca College and other places, even outdoor pools, where we'll be able to host our practices if the restrictions are lifted prior to the pool being ready. There's the curse of COVID, but there's also the blessing in the sense that unfortunately we haven't been able to practice. So this has actually not been really disruptive to the season. So I hate to, it's not a blessing in any way, but in terms of the scheduling, that has absolutely been something that has led to less disruption for our teammates on the swim team. And then for Ithaca High School, the Ithaca High School, there's 2 areas that received work this summer. And many of these, as you'll see here, are the befores. We didn't get shots, or I don't have shots here of sort of what this looked like before we ripped it apart. So for those of you that don't know, J Building is formerly the location of the Ithaca High School's main office. Right, so that we have the large main parking lot, and then the Ithaca High School sort of logo. If you walk through that sort of pavement, straight ahead, underneath sort of the connection between that sort of is the entryway to the courtyard, you walk into J Building, and the main offices were there, attendance offices, Mr. Trumbull's office. What we did there is we actually gutted that entire space, and so on the west side of the hallway, right, we created, which is sort of parallel or closest to Route 13, we created an enormous wellness suite that includes spaces for guidance, nursing, and psychologist offices all in one, and it sort of flows beautifully together along with some meeting spaces there. On the east side of the hallway, which is closer to the courtyard side and the Lake Street side, that actually we created along those offices a large flexible classroom area that has a room divider. And so I'll show you here at the bottom corner there on the left is the large classroom space. All the other pictures are sort of the nurses suite and guidance suite, and then that hallway there that connects both. So that classroom there is a flexible classroom that actually allows us to have one large class or two smaller classes. There's actually a movable wall in there that's a segments of whiteboard that you can pull out and you can actually write on both sides. It's really going to be a collaborative space. We have yet to get the furniture that's going to go in this space, but that has been ordered, and there'll be tables, and so that we'll be able to learn together. We also created, if you see there on that bottom left on the picture, there is a door to the outside that goes in the courtyard. That actually is a space that is sort of a raised patio that has sort of steps or seating alongside of it. And so learning can take place outside as well. And then finally, you know, you might wonder, okay, well, you had that main office over in J building. What then did you do with it, or where will it go? And so for those of you that remember activities building, which is sort of nestled next to Culp, and between Culp and the gym and off the main parking lot there next to the sign Ithaca High School, that activities building is now becoming a suite of offices and will be the brand new welcome center for Ithaca High School, and will include things such as our registrar and our attendance clerks and special education, so that families have easy access to be able to come in, meet with us, you know, register young people. Our students can come in, have a space where they can check in if they're running late or pick up things that were dropped off for them. And there are multiple meeting spaces and offices and sort of, they're sort of like drop zones. So like where you can just stand and kind of plug in and recharge and send a quick email, have a quick interaction face-to-face with someone. And this space will absolutely become sort of that entryway and part of the spirit of Ithaca High School, which is so important for us to be able to have that welcoming environment. The one thing that we don't have pictures of that has yet to happen is going to be a York Lecture Hall. York Lecture Hall is also part of phase 1, but that was one of those projects that, because phase 1 was divided over 2 summers, it will actually happen in 2021. So that is in picture form some of the things that we have been doing to keep that capital project going in the most challenging of times. And so with that, I'm going to invite, I have Christopher Glaubitz here from Tetra Tech, and Cindy Doucette and Kim Gray from Campus Construction. And if the board or community has any questions for us, we would be delighted to talk about the capital project, because we believe that it is really great news and really uplifting in many ways for lots of communities.
Thanks, Amanda. That's quite the wrap up or review. That's great. Just questions for architects, Amanda, others, before I start to ask questions. Well, I'll weigh in. Why not? But we understand that Jason is in an office in the Welcome Center. J building, folks have been in there for quite a bit now. Actually, probably certainly a month or so. How are we doing on the Welcome Center as far as wrapping up the final pieces? Is it a matter of furniture, or are we allowing folks to have their workspaces? The idea is the more space we open up for administration and staff, that means we have more space for students, right? And so it's part of that dynamic at the high school we're trying to deal with. So,
Rob, I can chime in here. At this point, the only area that is not usable by the school district is the front entranceway. Everything else has been basically turned over. We still do have punch lists. We're waiting on a punch list from Tetra Tech, the final, but they have been in there doing what we call the work to complete list. So I'm sure that some of the things that are even on this punch list that is going to be coming will actually have already been done. but the final cleaning, everything has been done in there. And there is other spaces that can be occupied. Other than using the front entrance, the space is usable.
So that's great. I appreciate that, Cam. And I'll hop over to Joe Moresco Stadium. It does look like we're getting close on the turf being in place and frankly usable. There is some fencing, there's some other items that need to go in. Amanda, you talked about having events there. That actually is that's an educational space. That's a frankly 12-month space for phys ed and an all-weather surface basically. So when would we be able to turn that turf over, that big space, to the team down at Ithaca outside of the track, right? That's in the spring, but that's a space that can be used frankly every month. But go ahead.
Rob, they actually finished the turf field on just yesterday, and they walked with Scott. Now, Tetra Tech is going to come out to do the final punch list on the actual field turf. So we haven't actually done the punch list there, but the field is, I would say, 99% complete at this point. The bleachers themselves are probably, I would say, 90%. And like Amanda just talked about the press box, this press box is scheduled to be set in place Thursday. So, and we do have minor fencing to go around. We were not able to complete the remaining small detailing for top coating for the asphalt, although with the weather permitting, it's a possible that we might even grab that this week. We're still working with Edgar to see if it, because of the great weather we're having, if we could get in and finish that. If not, that would be done in spring. And as Amanda alluded to, the actual track surfacing, because of temperatures, we cannot do that. I think we're still in our off-gassing period for that asphalt. We're coming close to the end. If for some reason we had an amazing summer or fall here, I suppose they could call us up and say, hey, they want to put that surfacing down, but I highly doubt it because of it's weather related, and cold and wet is not good.
Right, thanks, Cam. The point is that the gates to Joe Moresco Stadium, will eventually be open. It will no longer be an active construction site. So once that happens, whether their track is completely finished or not, I would hope that that space would be available. And the point is, we don't have to wait till June to use that space. It will be done much sooner than that, and be able to be used for the benefit of students, staff, and the community before we can actually play a real game. We can play other games, right? Doesn't have to be football, right? Questions regarding other items? Caroline, if you ever have a chance to go out to Caroline, it is really it was a massive construction project, and there is a new hill in Caroline, basically because we're able to recycle topsoil that was going to cost us to be trucked away, but a request from the Caroline community is, can we build a hill on the site? And so we're able to actually integrate that and get some sod on there, and eventually it won't all erode away. But that's why it was great to get that done and get it seeded. It's been a great fall for grass, but very impressive site. Other questions from the board? If we're good, I appreciate it. Cam and Chris and others, there are meetings on Thursday, and then we'll be talking about phase 2 and completion of phase 1, and work is ongoing, planning for the future. There is a future. We will have more and more students back in buildings as we move forward. 2021 will look different than 2020. We talk about that quite a bit in my world, but we'll just keep planning and improving and doing what we do in Ithaca, is adapt and come up with great solutions. And we appreciate the review, Amanda and Kim and Chris. We'll talk soon. We were able, because of our shuttling around the agenda some, this is our last item. We did have Ann and Pat weigh in regarding the conference. Anything else for the good of the group? Dr. Brown, you're still there, perhaps?
All good. Thank you.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Anything else, Dr. Brown?
No, sir. I think we're all set.
Board members, Eldred, anyone? Are we good? All right.
I'm good. It's a great meeting, very informative.
Yep, exactly. Appreciate all the thoughtful board responses. The comments are outstanding. Appreciate the time. It's an opportunity to keep getting better, Dr. Brown, and figuring it out as we go, but learning. That's what we're supposed to do, Dr. Brown, right?
Yes, sir.
Engage and educate. So we're gonna keep working on that, even for me. So appreciate it, everybody. We're wrapping up, and we can go on home. So thanks, everyone.